We are in the season of summer, which means that the nomadic instinct in us begins to come to the front. People who have spent the year engaged in their vocation begin to think yearningly of a vacation. We dream of getting away from it all. Faraway places with strange-sounding names become more than places. They become hoped-for destinations. But really, what is the purpose of a vacation? What ought to happen on a vacation? The best answer I've ever found was given by Anne Morrow Lindbergh in her little book called Gift from the Sea. Mrs. Lindbergh wrote that book primarily for women, but I think the wisdom in it applies just as much to men. It's a little book that I pick up every summer at this time and read it again. Here is the purpose of a vacation, according to Anne Morrow Lindbergh. At first, the tired body takes over completely. As on shipboard, one descends into a kind of deck chair apathy. One is forced against one's mind, against all tidy resolutions, back into the primeval rhythms of the shore. Rollers on the beach, wind in the pines, the slow flapping of herons across sand dunes drown out the hectic rhythms of city and suburb, time schedules. One falls under their spell, relaxes, stretches out prone. One becomes, in fact, like the element on which one lies, flattened by the sea, bare, open, empty as the beach, erased by today's tide of all yesterday's scribblings. And then, some morning in the second week, the mind comes to life again, wakes, not in a city sense, no, but beach-wise. It begins to drift, to play, to turn over in gentle, careless rolls like those waves on the beach. One never knows what chance treasures these easy, unconscious rollers may toss up on the smooth white sand of the conscious mind. What perfectly rounded stone, what rare shell from the ocean floor. Perhaps a channeled whelk, a moon shell, or even an argonaut. But it must not be dug for or sought for. No dredging of the sea bottom here. That would defeat our purpose. The sea does not reward those who are too anxious, too greedy, or too impatient. To dig for treasures shows not only impatience, but lack of faith. Patience. Patience. Patience is what the sea teaches. Patience and faith. One should lie empty, open, choiceless as a beach, waiting for a gift from the sea. That is what should happen on a vacation. The depleted storehouses of patience and faith are refilled. Nerves that have been stretched taut are allowed to relax. A mind that has been filled with essential trivia is emptied and allowed to store up new thoughts, new ideas, new hopes. This is the purpose of a vacation. The day's music, which during the year may have become jangling dissonance, turns into a symphony, a Vacation Symphony. Now at this point, someone may be thinking, Mr. Preacher, that sounds fine. That sounds good. But you're not talking to me. There is no way in this world that I can go away. There's no way in this world I can go on a cruise. I can't go to the seashore. I can't go to a historical place. I am stuck right here. My entire life is lived out on one note only, and that is the note of boredom and monotony and drudgery. You're not talking to me. There's a little poem that describes this mood. It's called The Travel Agent. All day, she sits behind a bright brass rail, planning great journeys that will bring far places near. The Taj Mahal at Agra, Seville and Fiesole in spring, through the fjords in June, her winning words take wing. She is the minstrel of the great out trail. At 5:30, she puts her maps away, puts on a gray, meek hat, and braves the sleet, a timid eye on traffic. Dully gray, the house that harbors her in a gray street, the close, sequestered retreat where she was born, where she will always stay. Let me try to speak to that situation. And let me remind vacation stay-at-homes that the great Galilean himself was never a traveler. Palestine was his home, and a tiny home it was, about 70 miles wide. Jesus was hemmed in, he was penned in, and yet the picture we have of him as he strides through the pages of the Gospels is of a man who was completely familiar with the sights and the sounds of summer, almost at random. Let's recall some scenes that show Jesus appreciating the beauty of summer. On the day he delivered the Sermon on the Mount, he said this: "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I tell you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." Jesus often took illustrations from the world of nature when he wanted to make the point that those who heard his word and did it were blessed. He didn't expound theologically. He didn't expound philosophically. He said, "He that received seed into the ground, the good ground, is he that heareth the word and understands it, and which beareth fruit and bringeth forth, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold." When he was lamenting the slowness of people to respond to him, he said, "The foxes have holes, the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Always, the man of Nazareth practiced the Vacation Symphony, and he did it where he was. And he urged us to find some way to get away from it all, to be alone. Some place where we can close a door, some place where we can find an open space and simply think about God. Let me quote Anne Morrow Lindbergh again. She said, "Actually, these are among the most important times in one's life, when one is alone. Certain springs are tapped only when we are alone. The artist knows he must be alone to create. The writer to think out his thoughts. the musician to compose, the saint to pray, we need solitude in order to find again the true essence of ourselves. So Jesus would slip away in the early morning light, or in that beautiful time of twilight. He would slip away to some leafy, trysting place which to his soul was like green pastures and still waters. So to those of us who will be staying home this vacation time, comes the challenge to discern the beauty that is all around us, the beauty which is as near to us as our hands or our eyes. Let Ralph Waldo Emerson sum up this side of our thinking. He said, "Let me go where'er I will, I hear a skyborn music still. It sounds from all things old, it sounds from all things young, from all that's fair, from all that's foul, peals out a cheerful song. It is not only in the rose, it is not only in the bird, not only when the rainbow glows, nor in the song of woman heard, but in darkest, meanest things, there's always, always something sings. 'Tis not in the high stars alone, nor in the cup of budding flowers, nor in the red-breast mellow tones, nor in the bow that smiles in showers, but in the mud and scum of things, there's always, always something sings." My second word is directed to those who will be traveling this summer. And let me say to you, what you will see depends to a large extent on what you have already seen and felt right here at home. You may have heard this story, but it bears repetition at this point. There was a farmer and wife who had dreamt of getting away on a vacation and going in particular to the Grand Canyon. And finally the summer came when everything was in order and they felt they could make that trip. They flew into Flagstaff, Arizona, they rented a car, and they drove to the Grand Canyon. As they entered the park, they inquired of a ranger where was the first beautiful spot, and the ranger gave them precise directions. The farmer drove the car to that spot, stopped, turned off the motor. He and his wife got out of the car, walked down the few steps to the lookout. They got to the railing, put their hands on the railing, and they looked out at that awesome, beautiful sight. The wife was enthralled, captivated, thrilled with the beauty that was spread out before her. She wondered how her husband felt, what this tremendous sight was doing to him and for him. And she looked at him, and he looked at her. And she said, "Honey, what do you think of it?" And he said, "It's a terrible place to lose a cow." That vacation did him no good. Personal illustrations. A few years ago, my wife and I and Janet drove to the Grand Canyon. We had our 2 dogs with us. We came to the canyon, and we too found that glorious spot that the farmer and his wife had seen. Dot said she would stay by the car with the 2 dogs. Janet and I walked down those few steps, came to that same outlook, and we looked. And we saw God's beauty stretched out before us. We were enthralled. We were captivated. I had seen it a couple of times before. Janet had never seen it. And I wondered what she was thinking. And after a good period of time, she looked at me and said, "Dad, it's so beautiful. It takes my breath away." The same spot, looking at the same thing, but two entirely different reactions. Rodin, the sculptor, was so enthralled with beauty that he would carry a lovely piece of bronze with him wherever he went. He would have it in his pocket. And during the day, at various times, perhaps when he was walking, perhaps when he was talking with friends, perhaps when he was just sitting, he would take out that beautiful piece of bronze and just feast his eyes upon it. As an artist, he wanted to keep beauty ever before him. And if we are to compose a Vacation Symphony, we must begin writing it right where we are. If we don't find beauty right here, the mere widening of the circumference of our travels will not really do any good. It is forever true that if we wander the world over and search for the marvelous, we must first find it where we are, or we will find it nowhere else. A fallacy of the ages is that it requires distance to lend enchantment. No. Think of the prodigal son. He felt confined, penned in. He went to his father and he said, "I want my share." The father gave it to him. Then he said, "I want my way." The father said goodbye. And the son, we are told, went into the far country on a vacation. Now he was free from all the restrictions of life. Now he could do whatever he wanted. He had his share. He had his way. And the story tells us that he ate and he drank and he was merry. He wasted his substance in riotous living. And he spent it all. And one day he discovered it was all gone. And then he didn't say, "I want my share." He didn't say, "I want my way." He cried out, "I want." And he headed home. And he didn't know what kind of a reception he would receive. He was apprehensive. His father saw him coming. And his father ran out to him and threw his arms around him and smothered him with kisses and cried to his servants, "Bring the robe and put it on him. Bring shoes and put them on him. Put a ring on his finger. My son was dead and is alive. My son was lost and is found." He had cried, "I want my share." He had cried, "I want my way." He cried, "I want." And then he discovered, I am wanted. Where? Not in some far distant place, but in the home he had left. So too with us. If we are to write a Vacation Symphony, we must begin it right where we are. My final word is addressed to all of us, vacation stay-at-homes, vacation travelers. And I ask you to remember that the invitation of summer is never hurry up. It's always lie down. Lie down. One of the most cherished verses in the Bible contains that very note of reclining. Indeed, it carries the note of compulsion. He maketh me to lie down. Try it this summer, wherever you are. Someone has said, you never really appreciate the beauty of the sky until you lie down and look up at it. Let go. Let God. Stop this striving after things this summer and concentrate on the things of the Spirit. Let this summer be a time when you stop worrying about the things of this world and think very deliberately on all that you have. This summer, let it be a time when you cease your scheming and start your dreaming. This summer, gratefully acknowledge that this is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass, I hear him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, his hand, the wonders wrought. And if the thought of God is too awesome for you, if God is too high, too mighty for you, then I invite you to think of Jesus Christ. He pointed to the birds of the air. He touched the shepherd's robe. He picked the flower of the field. He held a little child in his arms. And as he did these things, he beheld God in all his glory. Very seldom did Jesus say, believe in God. But always he said, behold the works of God. Let's make our vacation a symphony this summer by doing that, beholding the works of God, wherever and whenever we find them. Our Father, in this season of vacation, we become aware that life is more than labor, and that variation in daily living gives relief to mind and body. Teach us, then, how to find recovery through rest, resourcefulness through recreation, until we find renewal in the repeated acts of daily work and life. We ask this in the name of him who saw you wherever he went and called us to follow him. We pray in his name. Amen.